Welcome back to WD MagicCast for the week of July 14th, 2024. This is episode 264. WD MagicCast, the show about the mouse, the marvels, the galaxy, and beyond. I'm your host, Matthew Graykin. In this week's episode, we have not one, but we have two people joining us. We have Dave Goldman, who likes to come around because his wife kicked him out of the house again, and the couch is lonely. And then we also have Jacki York joining us back again from MEI Mouse Fan Travel to be able to talk about Lightning Lane. What is it, who is it, and how do you get there? Don't forget to join us on the social medias at WD MagicCast, pretty much everywhere on YouTube. Make sure we're getting those likes because we have some special things coming along. And also on Twitter, X, Threads, Facebook, Instagram. We're pretty much most places at WD MagicCast. Also, check out our TeePublic shop where we got some really nice WD MagicCast wear and swag to be able to help promote the show and also get you something nice too, but help your favorite podcast out as well. And on that bombshell, on with the show. Just recently, we were starting to finally figure out Genie Plus, what it is, and how it works. Disney was not happy with this, so they decided to switch it back to something that was a little more familiar and a little not. They got rid of Genie Plus in favor of Lightning Lanes, which will be Lightning Lanes Multi-Pass and Lightning Lanes Single Pass. And it's somewhat between FastPass Plus and somewhat between Genie Plus. So to figure out how to navigate this craziness, we have someone with a lot of questions on his mind. And that would be Dave Goldman, who has mastered his way on figuring out how to make things complicated, according to his job.
I complicate everything. Hello, Matthew. Thank you for having me.
That's what your wife says, yes.
Yes.
And then we also have someone who does actually know the answers to all of our questions and be able to explain these things a lot better than probably either Dave or I can. Jacki York, how are you doing? Welcome back.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. I said I want you back on, and I true to my word this time. So, Disney dropped a big announcement saying that Genie Plus, after all this time of trying to explain it, handing out pamphlets to people to try and have them understand what it is, and probably having lot of late night emails and phone calls from you to try and explain to people on how to use it and how it works, has decided to change that.
Wait, hold on. Is that true? They were handing out pamphlets to the people in the parks?
They always have pamphlets, Dave. I mean, they always have. They had pamphlets. They also had blue tech support tents set up for people who had questions, while they were on the ground in the parks. People needed a lot of help with Genie Plus.
Remember, Dave, they are a multimedia company, so it was digital and paper, and the physical aspect with the magic bands.
Right, that's true. But I never used the Genie Plus, so I never needed to seek out that kind of literature, so I didn't know that they were actually handing this stuff out to help you out. Okay, learn something new every day.
It?
No,
you
never.
Didn't use it on your trip?
Nope.
I used it every day, every day of our trips.
The only thing I used on the app was for the virtual queues, for the the popular rides that were out, Rise of Resistance and so on. But I never used any of the other stuff.
Yeah. So I felt like I was becoming an expert at Genie Plus, and my last couple of personal trips with my family, I was the one in charge. I was the one waking up every day at 7 a.m. to grab that Genie Plus and make our first booking. And I was learning about stacking and setting timers and, all this stuff. And then now it's just all useless knowledge. So Disney has changed things on us once again.
Well, you're on the right podcast for that. We are filled with useless knowledge.
So I get, like, where do we start? Like, I guess for the novice, that like, what's the big difference between what we had and what's coming?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's going to work very close to how Genie Plus was working. You're still going to purchase it through the app, through your My Disney Experience app. You're still going to be able to make and modify basically ride reservations through the app. A lot of the terminology has changed. Disney has their own language and they love to throw new things at us. So, I mean, basically, instead of being called Genie Plus, it's going to be and having lightning lane attractions and individual attractions. We're going to have just lightning lane. And there's going to be lightning lane multi-pass and lightning lane single pass. Lightning lane multi-pass is taking the place of Genie Plus, and lightning lane single pass is taking the place of the individual attraction. It's going to work the same, basically the same. It's just going to be called something a little different.
So I've heard this from somebody else, so I can't take credit for this idea, but she's Len Testa who mentioned, and I believe he's actually correct, that they have a giant spinning wheel that has words on it. So you have magic, genie, day, wonderful, all these adjectives, and they just spin it. And whatever it lands on, that's our new name.
That makes sense. I believe it.
That's someone's job. Someone actually gets paid to do that.
Can you imagine how much Disney spends on signage a year? And when they have to make these changes and everything gets brand new signs and everything has to be updated, all the the marketing and the everything has to be changed.
That was actually one of the first things that came to my mind. Like, some of these things just had the signage put up that said, the Genie Plus and this and that, and now they just removed them, had to repaint, because the signage is not going to be the same area, and put up new signage. Now the benefit to that is, there is some sign making company in Florida that goes, oh goody, we have another order.
Yeah. And don't forget, all those signs that they're replacing that said Lightning Lane, they just replaced all the signs that said Fast Pass a few years ago. Yeah. So, there's some sign company is very happy right now.
And wasn't Genie Plus like within the last year or two? Because I thought I remembered that it was Genie and then it became Genie Plus, correct? Like recently.
Well, no, there was always Genie and Genie Plus, because Disney Genie was the free version of it. It basically just gave you like a tip board, and you could do mobile order for food and things like that. Everybody had access to that. Okay. And then Genie Plus was the paid version of it.
The paid version. Okay, that's where I got confused. Okay.
Yeah. Easy to do, Dave.
Yeah.
All these things.
This all came about just after COVID. So when we had when everything went down with COVID is when they stopped the fast pass system, because trying to reintegrate and reset the parks and slowly bring people in. Genie was something that they were working on behind the scenes before all of that happened anyway.
So they started Genie after COVID.
After COVID, yeah.
Yep, they started after COVID. Finding a good excuse to be able to switch it over at that point in time. And then, of course, it was the idea of, Genie Plus has ruined it because FastPass was free. Well, there was talks already about switching FastPass over to a paid service, because why not? All their competitors do it, and it's another revenue stream. So. And then after COVID, of course, they needed as many revenue streams as they can get.
Disney loves a good revenue stream.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But, So Yeah, so we're morphing. We're morphing from Genie Plus into, again, we're still calling them Lightning Lanes. They're just, Lightning Lane, again, Lightning Lane multi-pass and Lightning Lane single pass.
Now because from what I'm seeing, from what Matthew sent me and I read through the stuff, the Lightning Lane, the single attraction ones, is that replacing the queues for like the newest rides, or there's still two separate things?
It's still two separate things. As far as I know, the virtual queues are still going to exist.
Okay.
So for rides, brand new rides, like Tiana's Bayou in Magic Kingdom, they're still going to have that virtual queue so that, people aren't forced to buy Lightning Lanes if they don't want to. They can still try to do the virtual queue right at 7 a.m. The big benefit to doing Lightning Lane is that if you're a Disney Resort guest, you can book all your Lightning Lanes at 7 days prior to your trip. Mm-hmm. So no more having to wake up every morning of your vacation at 6:55 a.m. If you don't want to, you can still wake up at 6:55 and try to hop in that virtual queue right at 7 a.m. But if you don't want to do that, if you're not a morning person and you really hated having to get up at 7 a.m. every morning on your vacation, you don't have to anymore.
Unless if you're Dave Gallman, who has a magic touch with the virtual queues and always seems to get it and get good ones.
Not that I want to get up that early to do it, but I have a pretty good hit percentage getting up that early and getting them.
Even randomly at one point we were in the studios and it was the 1 o'clock drop for Rise, and Dave's like, "Hey, look what I just happened to get."
Let's go.
Or even more recently for our upcoming trip that I haven't mentioned yet, so I'm not going to get into details, but when we had to join the loading time for that, Dave was the first one in on that. It got that. Everyone else is still trying to load into it. He's like, "Oh, I got mine.
I'm good." Having that faster internet works. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Dave just has a gift with this stuff. But the virtual queues really is not a replacement for the Lightning Lanes or Genie Plus or that. It's replacing the standby line. So instead of having a 2.5 hour or 3 hour line of people, miserable, cranky, crammed into a long queue line from an attraction, they decided to do the virtual queues for that. So you can break that down into smaller groups. So you have a smaller amount of people in those queue lines, and people are able to do other things. And it's really guest satisfaction at that point, because then you could be riding other attractions and realize, okay, my foot's still in the door for Rise of the Resistance, Guardians of the Galaxy, Tiana's Bayou, and I think Tron are the ones that still have all that. It's more of a time management and a guest satisfaction than anything. And if they happen to spend money at restaurants and merchandise shopping, that's an unfortunate side effect. But it's, again, would you rather be standing in a 3-hour line for an attraction? That at that point, that's going to affect your opinion of that attraction and your experience just in general that day or altogether. Or realize, okay, I am group 58. They're doing group 20 at the moment. I still can do something else. Come back. Oh, my group is cold. Let me go get on the ride, and then the rest of my day is free.
Yeah, I could have used something like that when I was waiting on the Avatar ride. I was on that thing for 3 hours. I'll never do that again. Never.
Oh my gosh.
Well, when we did it, we rope dropped it and we got on just right away.
Yeah, no,
that's
not
what
us.
You got to do.
Not us.
Well, it depends on when you're there too. I mean, you can rope drop things sometimes, and if everybody goes directly there, even the rope drop line can be pretty long.
That is true.
But the virtual queues, it's a huge plus that it's free. Anybody visiting Disney can use a virtual queue. It's just, there's a little bit of luck of the draw as far as what boarding group you get. But the important thing to remember about virtual queue is you can have a boarding group and still not get to ride. If the ride breaks down, which, some of the newer, more technical rides do tend to break down quite a bit.
Rise of Resistance.
Rise, I'm looking at you.
Yep.
And You can have a boarding group and all of a sudden you realize, geez, it's 10 o'clock, park is closing, and they never called my group. So there is a risk. I would say if your family's never been before, you don't know when you're going back, and this is a must do for either you or your kids, just buy the Lightning Lane. That way you are guaranteed that you are going to get on that ride, barring any unforeseen complete shutdowns or anything like that. And of course, if that happens, that actually did happen to me and my family once. It was shut down for the whole day. Disney will refund your Lightning Lane. But at least it's a good way to know, okay, we're guaranteed to get on this between this time period, between 11 and 12 or whatever time you choose.
Or if you're stuck in a restaurant for 3 hours because their service is just awful that day and you miss your window and they let you in anyway, the kindness of your heart at the end of the day.
Yeah. I wonder who that happened to. Now, speaking of the pricing, I saw it said pricing may vary. Now, I'm going to assume that during the peak hours of the park, I'm assuming it's going to be higher, or if you're going like a holiday weekend, it's probably going to be more. If you go an off peak, less crowded, I'm assuming it'll be cheaper. Is that kind of what to expect or no?
Yeah, that's a good assumption. I mean, when Disney says prices vary based on travel dates and things like that, it usually means if you're there during a busier time of year, expect to pay more than if you're there during a slow time of year. Just like when they moved to date-based tickets a couple of years ago, tickets during holiday weeks and over weekends are going to be more expensive than tickets midweek during a slow time. So we don't have any actual pricing on the new Lightning Lane yet. Hopefully it'll be similar to what we saw with Genie Plus. But that was a big range. I mean, Genie Plus was anywhere from $5 to $20 a person, depending on the ride or attraction and the date you were visiting. So I mean, that's a big range. And if you've got a family of 4, 5, 6 people, that can really add quite a bit to your day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember, especially during certain holidays, that not only in one of the newer attractions were coming out, like Tron, not only was the price at the higher point, they kept on raising the ceiling. So it became kind of the newest high point. At one point it was $15, and then it crept to like 17, and then 20, and so forth. So there is the range, even ranges. It's not a very steadfast number.
Yeah. Kind of like over here in the Jersey Shore, if you go in off season, you'll pay $5 for parking. You go 4th of July weekend, guess what? You're paying $100. So.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, It demands, the prices are based on the demand. So, and Disney says it's a way to help manage crowds during busier times. I mean, I don't know. It still looks pretty crowded to me if you're there,
exactly.
Over a holiday, but yeah, you're definitely going to pay more if you go during a busier time.
There is no slow time anymore at Walt Disney World.
It really seems like that, doesn't it? I mean, I remember several years ago, my kids were younger, literally being in Magic Kingdom, walking around at 8 a.m. and there was hardly anybody even in the park. And it really doesn't seem like you can find those super slow days anymore. Maybe a random Tuesday in January or something, but not consistently slower times.
It's all due to the wonderful travel agents that could say, hey, you can go at this time, and it's going to be a little slower, and then spreading out the people and getting there all the times, whatever people desire.
Yeah, it's all on us, but but also I think Disney, whenever there's a slow time, Disney looks at it and says, hey, what can we plug in there to make people come? So if January used to be super slow and now they've got the Festival of the Arts in Epcot, or the fall between summer break and the holidays used to be slow. So now they've had food and wine for who knows how long, and that brings a ton of people. And so if there's a slow time period, Disney will find a way to bump up attendance.
Oh, absolutely.
And plus you'll have people that, they know when the busy time is, and they're like, you know what, I don't want to deal with the large crowds. Let me go in the off season, which is kind of like what I'm kind of thinking to do. Like, let's go in January. It should be less. But to your point, they're going to get me, but they're also trying to get other people there as well. They want to fill those parks, not just have the
Yeah.
I want to off peak.
Well, and I think there are slower times, but it's a relative thing, right? So if you look at park calendars where it says, the parks are going to be at a 3 on this day, that sounds great, but a 3 this year is not what a 3 was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's all based on how many total people are visiting in a given year or during a given time period. So I think it's just overall busier. So if you can do things like Lightning Lane that cuts down your wait time and makes it so that your family gets on those rides that you really, really, really want to do, I think it's worth it. I think you should roll it right into your budget as soon as we have an idea of what the prices are going to be. Just plan for it so that you're not, you're expecting that extra cost, so you're not surprised by it every day.
No,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, it comes down to the old adage for Disney traveling that it's either going to be time that you're spending or money that you're spending.
I love that. Yeah. You're either, you can either save money or you can save time. So and some people are perfectly fine with rope dropping, and they have their day planned to a T, and they know what they're going to hit when, and they know they're going to wait in some really long lines, and they're okay with that. They've planned for it. But then you've got other people who are just, what is the easiest way to get from point A to point B? What is the most convenient way to do this? I don't care what it costs. Tell me how to figure this out. And there's an option for them too. There's
no way to bundle that into your trip per se. Like, how this way the sticker price, you're like, okay, that's what it is. You're not worrying about, I'm spending $100 on Lightning. You know what I mean? Right. It's just there. So, how you got your resort, you got your park pass, your hopper or whatever, at this point, they're not bundling anything in there to make that easier to look at.
Right. At this point, no. When Genie Plus first came out, we were able to just add it to your length of stay. Kind of like a park hopper, right? So you start out with the base ticket, you could add park hopper, you could add Genie Plus, you could do it for the length of your stay, just got added onto your package. They have not announced that with this new change. As far as we know, it's only going to be available through the app 7 days prior for Disney Resort guests, 3 days prior for everybody else. So that's going to be a big perk to staying on property.
If you're in the United States and Canada.
Right.
Just United States. Actually, even Canadian guests can't book it until they get into the United States.
US.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what we've been told so far. Again, it hasn't even started yet, so it's hard to know 100% on everything, how it's going to work exactly, but that's what we've been told so far.
Yeah, that's what I read something on that, where any international or whatever, you have to be in the United States in order to order any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So, I was going to say, a lot of that is because of tax reasons.
Oh, really? Is that
paying for it? Yeah, because there's different tax laws and stuff in different countries, so there's issues with that, and that's what I heard.
Sounds right to me. We'll go with it. Matt.
We'll run with it. So there's the multi Lightning Lane package that you can do. So what, you can pick up to 3 attractions for the day?
Yes. So if you remember back when we still had Fast Pass, we were able to select 3 rides per day in advance. It's going to work the same way with MultiPass. At 7 days prior to your trip, you can add MultiPass for every day of your stay if you're staying in a Disney resort. You can pick 3 attractions per day to start with. Then on the actual day, once you're in the park and you tap into that first ride, the first one that you've chosen, you can add additional attractions one at a time. So you can always have 3, basically. And that's exactly how Fast Pass worked in the past.
So you don't have to select your 3 before you get into the park, or you do?
No, you do. You don't have to, but that's
right.
One of the benefits is you can select 3.
Okay.
But then once you're in the park, the actual day of, once you tap in for that first attraction, you can add additional
Additional
look, I almost said fast pass. Additional lightning lanes one at a time. So you can always kind of have 3 in your queue, so to speak.
And how do they space out? How do you know when you need to? Do they notify you for your 3 that you pick? You hit that first one. How do you know when you're going for those other 2 that you have? You understand what I'm saying or no? Or you just go to all 3 of them right off the bat that you picked?
Well, you're gonna choose times. So let's say when you book your initial 3, that's 7 days prior to your visit. Let's say you have, Space Mountain at 10 a.m., Peter Pan at 11, and Small World at 12. You know that you have an hour window to hit those attractions during those time periods. So once you tap in for your first ride, you tap in for Space Mountain at 10 a.m. While you're standing there in the Space Mountain queue, you can look and see if you can grab another lightning lane for later in the day. And you'll automatically schedule around any existing lightning lane reservations. Like I'm assuming it'll tell you if there's any kind of time conflict. It always did with Genie Plus, or even back with Fast Pass. If you tried to schedule something during a time that you already had something else scheduled, it wouldn't let you do it. You had to adjust it accordingly. Again, this is all sort of conjecture on my part based on how it worked in the past, because it hasn't started yet. It doesn't start till July 24th. So we're not 100% on how it'll work, but that's what everybody's sort of assuming.
Yeah, and from what I heard as well, that once you've done an attraction, you cannot lightning lane it again. So if you do Space Mountain first thing in the morning, you can't lightning lane Space Mountain again that day in the evening. You can still do a standby line, obviously, but you cannot get a additional lightning lane. So you can't constantly be using lightning lanes on Space Mountain or It's a Small World, for instance.
Right.
Who would want to do that?
Who indeed, Dave? Who indeed?
You know what? My family, we ride Small World every single trip. It's just a thing. We have to do it.
So do I.
And every time we're like, why did we do it? It's going to be in our head all day, but it's just a thing. We have to do it. But yeah, no, that's correct. So if you have already used, I love Small World. It's one of my favorites.
Hey, nothing against it, but
it just gets stuck in your head for the rest of the day.
Yes.
But if you use your lightning lane on Space Mountain, to use your example, Matt, you can't then just keep rebooking it with lightning lane. You basically can book it for once per day. You can book it again for the next day or the day after that. You could do Space Mountain once every day of your trip if you wanted to, a lightning lane for it, but you just can't do it over and over on the same day. What you can do is purchase both multi-pass and individual single pass on the same day. So you can book either or both. So I have a list actually here. I have a list of the rides that we think are going to be included. So for example, in Magic Kingdom, the single pass attractions are going to be most likely Tiana's, right? Possibly Seven Dwarfs and Tron. The multi-pass attractions, they're going to have in tiers, again, like they used to with Fast Pass. So, there's going to be tier 1 and tier 2 for every park except Animal Kingdom. Yeah. So this is why they have pamphlets.
Animal Kingdom some love.
This is why they have pamphlets, Dave, because it is confusing. So they have, 2 tiers. You can choose 1 from tier 1, 2 from tier 2. So you could actually have 1 lightning lane single pass attraction, 1 lightning lane multi-pass tier 1 attraction, and then 2 lightning lane multi-pass attractions, all queued to start with on that day. If you buy both, and of course, we don't know the prices on that yet, but You'll be able to go, but conceivably going into the park, you could already have 4 attractions scheduled before
So
you even get there.
even if you have the Lightning Lane multi-pass, if in that tier 1 you can only do one Lightning Lane unless you have the other Lightning Lane to get, you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm saying it right, but
Well, you're kind of getting it. So it's so just for example, in Magic Kingdom, there's actually 3 separate tiers, if you want to call it that. There's the single pass Lightning Lane, which are the same rides that were the individual attractions. So you know the biggest rides, the 1 or 2 in each park. So there's that. Then if you buy the multi-pass, there's 2 different tiers within the multi-pass. You can pick 1 from tier 1 and 2 from tier 2.
Right, but tier 1 is more likely going to be the not the best rides, but the next tier down of the more popular rides, and then tier 2 is going to be like the lesser more popular ones. So they're allowing you to get multiples on those because they're probably not as in demand as tier 1 would be.
I think they're trying to spread people out throughout the park. You know, so they want to be able to spread out those lines, and back to like what Matt said earlier, it comes down to guest experience. They don't want somebody saying, well, why did I spend money on a Lightning Lane when I'm still waiting an hour and a half in line? Conceivably, that should not happen. If it works correctly, the lines are spread out, people are spread out, and nobody's going to have a super long wait if they've purchased the Lightning Lane.
From my understanding, the multi-pass tier 1 for the Magic Kingdom's Big Thunder, Jungle Cruise, Peter Pan, Space Mountain, I believe Tiana's as well. That's the list I've seen.
That's what I've seen too. So then basically everything else in Magic Kingdom is in tier 2.
So in theory, from what you're saying, is that if I'm understanding this right, if I do the single ride, I can grab Jungle Cruise, and then if I do the multi-pass, I could do also Big Thunder, and then like Barnstormer and Buzz Lightyear.
Right. Well, just to clarify, the like Jungle Cruise is still part of the multi-pass. So if you did just the multi-pass on the day you visited Magic Kingdom, you could pick 1 from tier 1, Jungle Cruise or Big Thunder or whatever, and then 2 from the second tier.
Right.
And the second tier is, you know, pretty much everything else except for Seven Dwarfs and Tron, because they're going to be the single pass.
Okay. So the ones that aren't listed at all are the single ones.
Yeah, I mean, and again, this is still sort of speculation. I've seen a lot of lists out there, but I don't know that Disney has officially confirmed what's going to be in each tier or what's going to be the single pass as opposed to in the multi-pass.
Right.
But the thing to remember is that you don't have to buy everything, right? You can buy just the single pass, you can buy just the multi-pass, or you can buy both.
And I'm sure over the course of time there'll be some shifting of shows and attractions and whatnot based on popularity and new attractions and stuff like that.
Right.
So I'm assuming that when you get closer to your trip, they'll have the updated list of what you can pick from.
Oh, yeah. And you're going to want to know that because, again, if you're a Disney Resort guest, you're going to make these choices at 7 days prior to your trip. And you can make them for your entire trip at that point. Right. So it's not like you have to, make them each day at 7 days prior to a specific date. At 7 days prior to your arrival date, you can make them for your entire trip, up to 14 days. If you've got some of our friends from Canada or overseas, they get longer vacations. I mean, I have had actually people who go to Disney and stay for 3 or 4 weeks at a time. So they would only be able to do it in 14-day blocks. But for most of us, 14 days would cover our entire trip.
Okay. Yeah. 3 weeks there. I could only dream about that.
Yeah.
Darn American vacation system. Yeah, I was just trying to quickly look to see if I could find anything official as far as some sort of list, and yeah, I'm not finding anything yet
Yeah, I
about
mean, there's
that.
plenty of unofficial lists out there, and I think they're pretty well based on. I think they're pretty accurate. There might be a few tweaks here and there between now and opening day, but I think it's pretty close to the lists that are out there.
So if anybody booked a trip between the time that it switches and they weren't able to pick their 7 days prior, how does that work for them? I know it switches over probably right smack dab in the middle of their thing, but they weren't able to pick their lightning lane selections. How does that work?
They'll just get to pick them that day. So if somebody is literally staying in Disney that particular week, when July 24th rolls around, starting at 7 a.m. Eastern on the 24th of July, they'll be able to go in and pick their lightning lanes for the rest of their entire trip.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm sitting there thinking that's got to stink, and that might not makes your job a little bit harder too, I would think, because they're calling you and hey, what's going on?
Well, think of it this way: nobody else is choosing them either, so it's not like everybody else got an extra. So it's going to start on the 24th,
right,
with a wide open field, basically. Yeah. So they'll still be able to go in and I think there'll be plenty of availability.
They're going to crash the system. Everybody going on there at once trying to pick a thing. Done.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be doing it through the app, so we'll see. Hopefully the app will behave better than websites have in the past.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Because I mean, as of the 24th, Genie Plus will not work anymore. The app will be changing. There will be a new screen that you can tap on. I think I'm trying to remember what it's called. But there's going to be a new screen on the app, either from the home screen or from the My Day. If you tap the My Day button and it takes you and shows you what your plans are for that day, it's supposed to be in there. And you'll be able to select Lightning Lane Multi-Pass or Lightning Lane Single Pass and purchase it right through the app. You will be able to make multiple purchases through the app at once, but only per day. So let's say, the first day that you want to make reservations for, you want the single pass and the multi-pass, you'll be able to add them all and buy them with one purchase. But then for the next day, you have to do a separate purchase. So you won't be able to do your entire trip in one purchase. You can do each day as a purchase.
And what if you're there in the middle of it? So what if you get there?
24th?
Yeah, so what if you get there, we'll say the 22nd or something like that, and you're staying till the 28th. So you start off with Genie Plus, and then you have to switch to Lightning Lanes?
Yeah, basically. I mean, so Genie Plus will still be available up until July 23rd. So, if you're there a few days before 22nd, 23rd, you still have the option of buying Genie Plus on a daily basis at 7 a.m., just like you can now. And then starting at 7 a.m. on the 24th, everything's going to roll over to Lightning Lane. And you'll have the opportunity to purchase Lightning Lane, either the single or the multi-pass, for each day of your stay at that point. So if you're there, let's say you're there on the 24th and you're staying through the 28th, you'll be able to schedule the 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th on the 24th.
Right, and you cannot book anything before that. So if you arrive on the 24th, you have to book it that morning. You can't book it 7 days prior.
Ahead of time, no.
Correct. Nothing is going to be live in the app until the 24th.
God. Good thing I'm not going then.
Exactly.
Just bring a lot of patience. Bring your patient pants.
Yeah, pack your patient pants and be nice to cast members because they're trying to deal with a new system as well.
They're just learning it as well. They don't understand it either. They're not the ones who decided this. They're not getting paid any extra because of it.
Yeah, and they're not in charge of Disney IT. They can't control the app.
Do you get like a heads up? I don't know, like nobody sees what the app is, but the people that are creating the new app, I'm assuming they do. But are they giving you any kind of screenshots of anything so that it makes your job a little bit easier, where you can help walk people through this if they have questions about it, or no, they're just on your own?
Not yet. Not yet. Disney is super proprietary about their stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So we got a heads up that this is going to be starting. We got to attend webcasts about it and how it's going to work, and we were able to see a little bit about how it's going to work, but we didn't get any kind of screenshots or anything that we could give to our clients. Mm-hmm. And to say, here's how it's going to work. Maybe, once we get to within a day or two before, they'll provide that to us. But right now, as far as I know, they're really not putting it out there. Yeah. They're telling us how it will work. They're not really showing us how it will work.
Right.
And let's keep this in mind. In theory, this is how it should work.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
This is what they're thinking it should work like.
Yeah, and I mean, imagine from what I read, there, people who are in the parks on the 23rd, everything is still going to say Genie Plus, and when you show up at the parks on the 24th, everything's going to say Lightning Lane and multi-pass and single pass. So imagine who's going to be in the parks overnight and changing everything over.
Yes. Well, I mean, you think about it. You could be there one day, it's Halloween, and then 2 days later, it's Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
True. Yeah, I mean, if they can change over an entire park from Halloween to Christmas overnight, I think they should be able to change over the signs for
a few signage. Yeah,
right.
I mean, it's just let's go to Home Depot, get some screws and some Gorilla Glue, and rip this sign off. And
yeah, I like to see the time lapse video of them, what it looked like with Genie Plus to fast forward to Lightning Lanes.
Yeah, exactly. But, it'll be interesting. Hopefully it'll go smoothly. Fingers crossed.
I really hope, for everyone's sake, not just Disney, but the guests and for travel agents and just everybody, that this goes a lot smoother than the Genie Plus transition.
Mm-hmm.
And just in general, that it's a lot more understandable, a lot more streamlined. At the moment, it's starting to sound like it's better thought out. Like the intent for Genie Plus was there, but I don't think they ever really sat down and said, this is how our guest experience should look like, and this is how we're going to map it out, and this is how it's just going to make everything smooth and transition easy for everybody, and this is how everyone will be happy this way. It was more like, oh, we're going to do this now. Or, all right, we're walking this back. It's going to be daily. And they kept on, guessing at everything. Mm-hmm. And it just never seemed to really click. And then that's why it's such kind of the crazy system that it is now. And people are just starting to kind of make sense of it on their own. But hopefully this just kind of levels the playing field and smooths it out for everybody.
Well, and I think Disney, to their credit, they do listen to guest feedback. I mean, consistently, the feedback that we were hearing from the past couple years was Genie Plus is too complicated.
Yes.
We don't want to be getting up at 7 a.m. every day on vacation. We don't want to be dealing with it all day, every day on vacation. Mm-hmm. And I think this is their way of trying to alleviate some of that by saying, okay, you can sit down at 7 days prior and basically make your plan for every day of your trip so that you don't have to deal with it when you're on vacation. You can just make a plan. And then honestly, if you don't want to do anything else with it while you're there, you don't have to. You could always just do your 3 rides a day and leave it at that. But I think as people get more familiar with it, they'll like it.
In some ways, it makes me think of like the dining reservation system. It's a shorter time frame. That with your dining reservations, your ADRs, you can do that at, was it 60 days now?
60 days, yeah.
But you see, for the 60th day of your day getting there, you can book your entire trip, and then you pick it. Okay, do this, that. And then that's it. You can leave it like that. If you want to keep modifying it, see if something opens up and changes around, you could do that too. Mm-hmm. Kind of like this. At 7 days, you can do your entire trip from the 7 days out from your initial day getting there. If you are there 3 weeks, you make your whole 3 weeks. And then, you could set everything. And then if you want to leave it like that, good to go. If you want to keep on modifying it, you can do that too. And the nice thing I'd like is that once you've used one, like you said, when you tap in, you could jump right in and grab something else.
Yeah, definitely. And again, I think it'll be good for people to be able to plan things out once for 7 days. And then if they want to modify it, if they want to change it, like you said, they can. If they don't want to, they don't have to. A couple really important things I wanted to mention for people who are planning to use the new Lightning Lane system. You need to have the app on your phone. Make sure that the app has been updated. You've got the latest update on your phone. Make sure that your resort reservation, if you're staying in a Disney resort, is linked. Or if you're not staying, if you're just doing tickets, that your tickets are linked. If you're staying in a Disney resort, you can make it at 7 days prior, and that's what we keep talking about. But if you're not staying in a Disney resort, or you're an annual pass holder, for example, you can make them at 3 days prior. But for both sets of guests, have the app downloaded, make sure it's updated, and ready to go, and for the best success rate on getting these scheduled.
And if you also make sure that your family and or party is all linked together in the app.
Everybody's linked. Yeah, because sometimes people would actually contact me and say, I can't do anything in the app. And I would actually go in and look at it. And it's because they didn't link their resort reservation. So Disney had no way of knowing that they were staying on property and they had a reservation to allow them to do these other things. So yeah, you've got to make sure that your confirmation number is linked, that you've got all your family members or friends who are traveling with you linked, and then one person will be able to make the Lightning Lanes for everybody. So everybody doesn't have to have their own account. Everybody doesn't have to make their separate Lightning Lanes. Have one person in charge who can make everything for your group.
Mm-hmm. That'd be Dave.
Yeah.
I don't want nothing to do with that.
But yeah, so that is Lightning Lanes. You guys have any other questions or anything you want to add?
No. I think I got a grip on it.
And Dave, you said, well, I don't know what I'm going to be able to add. You had all the questions.
Sorry.
Dave's just trying to plan another Disney trip, so he wants to make
right.
sure he knows what's going on before he gets there.
Right, I'm getting all the questions into Jackie now, so that I don't have to ask her later.
Oh, you're still going to be asking her later. Dave needs another lightsaber.
Yeah.
So that my kids don't say, is that Dave Gallman again?
Dave's calling again.
I literally called her yesterday. I was like, you missed me?
I told him, I said, my daughter's sitting in the office with me, and I said, I have to take this. It's Dave. And she goes, oh, Dave Gallman? I said, yeah, as a matter of fact.
That's right.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Dave, you're famous. You're famous around the house. What can I say?
I'll take responsibility for that, for suggesting him. You did.
I did apologize.
No, not at all. It's fine. But yeah, no, I think we covered it pretty well. I mean, there's going to be questions, and unfortunately, there's just going to be some things that we just don't know until it's live and people start using it and we figure out what's going on. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure we'll have more information, towards the end of the month.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once we get closer to the launch date, and particularly when we get to the launch date, a lot more information is going to come. A lot of information fast is just going to start dropping in getting out to the public. Don't be surprised if we don't find out most of the information until the 24th.
Yeah.
Then that's just unfortunately kind of how Disney works things. They keep everything close to the vest until it happens, for multiple reasons. So pricing, again, we may not find. I'm going to assume the pricing is going to be close to the Genie Plus price points at this time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if that changes shortly afterwards. My assumption is don't be surprised if it goes up.
Nothing ever goes down.
Exactly. It's either going to maintain the same price point for 3 months or so. And that's just an arbitrary number. And then you'll start seeing it creep up. In 3 months, will be close to Christmas time. So yeah, the pricing you'll see start creeping up at that point, and that would be perfect timing. And then January, you see it kind of level off again. It will still probably be higher than what Genie Plus is, but it will be not the highest point that it was during Christmas time. And that's just my assumption. Again, I have no basis on that. I have no insider information. No one is, telling me anything. That's just my guess. So, and on that note, Dave, thank you for coming on and providing all the questions, and saves a phone call later to Jacki. Jacki,
you're welcome.
Thank you for coming on, sharing all this wonderful information that you have, and your services again are priceless.
Thanks, Matt.
You're welcome.
They are literally priceless because
I know.
Free.
and how do people get a hold of this free priceless service that you provide?
Usually the best way to reach me is email, because I watch my email almost 24/7. I do sleep sometimes, but my email address is jacki.york@mei-travel.com. Email me anytime. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me through the MEI Mouse Fan Travel website. There's a quote request page right on the website where you can just put my name in, just say Jacki, and it'll make its way to me. So, yeah. Or they can contact you, Matt, and you can send them my way.
Absolutely. And I will put links to your email and the website in the show notes.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
You're absolutely welcome. And Dave, you can find him here. When he's not busy moonlighting on other podcasts. All right, thank you again, everyone.
You got it. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Make sure to join us again on those social networks. Find us everywhere at WD Magicast. Again, make sure to join our YouTube channel where we are going to be doing some stuff shortly. Thank you again for your time. Thank you for everything all the times that you listen in. Really means a lot to us here at the WD Magicast family. It really keeps us going. Please, if we could ask, go onto Apple Podcasts, go onto Spotify, leave a rating review. We have all 5-star reviews at the moment. Keep them coming. We need more. They will do the point to help share and promote the show. And speaking of sharing, promoting the show, make sure to share us on social networks. Share a link to the episode you're listening to, your favorite episode. Tag us in so we can say thank you. But this way, more people know about the show, or just tell people about it too. Won't believe they're a big Disney family, and so do I. Don't forget to subscribe to the show while you're at it. This way you always know when new episodes are posted. And while you're at it, consider becoming a premium subscriber. Really help the show out. Do this over at spotifypodcast.com/WD Magicast. I'll put a link to that in the show notes because I don't think I said that link correctly. You could also check us out on our merchandise shop at TeePublic too, and get yourself something while you're at it. Remember, because this show is brought to you by listeners like you. In Japan, broken objects are often repaired with gold. The flaws is seen as a unique piece of the object's history, which adds to its beauty. Consider this the next time you feel broken. Never give up. Never give in. You're special who you are unique. There's a reason you are here. Be your own hero. Let the world see the light that you are. I'd like to end this week's show with a quote from Walt Disney himself. Well, it took many years. I started with many ideas, threw them away, and started over again. And eventually it evolved into what you see today at Disneyland. And that's from Walt Disney. Thank you again for listening, everyone, and I'll see you next time.